And we're live. Hi, everyone. There's still some people finding seats. Feel welcome to just find your best spot. While everyone's getting seated, I think, first of all, to welcome everyone. Hi, welcome. You can hang your coat there. I want to mention two important things before we really get started. First of all, put your phones off. You know, you can make some photographs if you want, sure, but it's maybe not so nice if you start to have phone calls coming in. I wanted to say that this is not just a live stream, so hi everyone at home, but it's also being recorded. And that's also because we have a lot of interest from people outside of the Netherlands who could not be here in person. And so we're delighted to share that this whole evening will be on YouTube somehow, some points. I don't know when exactly, but we'll probably mention that soon. Before we get started, I think it's also good to know that, there's some moments here and there for a Q&A, a question and answer, and it's always great to have questions. So don't be afraid to ask them. Just dive in there, you know, because it's always nice to have this thing together. So let's get started, Alice, don't you think?
I think we should, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Do I have this as well?
Yeah. Maybe it would be good to first say something a little bit why we're here. I mentioned already during the dinner, I'm maybe a little bit overly excited. Some people told me you invited me 4 times for this evening. And the reason why I'm so excited is because, well, this is an event for graphic design, and it's been a while since we've been able to do that. And then I'm so happy that we're able to do that in real life together. And I see so many faces of friends and colleagues and people that I haven't seen for a while, or just, so I'm even getting more and more excited. But, and the reason that we're here is all because of you, Alice.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. It's not your fault, but it's the reason that we're here is truly because of that. I think what's really important to maybe mention is this is hosted by the Wim Krauwel Institute, and the board members of the Wim Krauwel Institute are also sitting here. And maybe you don't know it, so if you don't, I would like to say a couple words about the Wim Krauwel Institute. Because it's about graphic design, and we think that graphic design is about the now and also about the next. It reflects and shapes today's social attitudes and the political issues, and it tackles all of the identities and engages also with the world around us and how we distribute that. And for us, that's an important thing to understand, because contemporary design builds up, but also pushes against all of these ideas and insights of the generations of designers. And it's important to kind of, archive that. And you know all about that, of course. And the Wim Krauwel Institute does some core activities, we organize evenings like this. We have a new website, it's a great website, where you can also find lots of beautiful archive from the Dutch design. That is actually from NAGO. But most of all, we want to ensure that what we do now as educators is actually, and historians, practitioners, provides the most powerful springboard possible for the generations of tomorrow. So one of the things that we do, or did actually, is put up the Wim Krauwel chair. And this is where Alice came into to place. It's the Wim Krauwel chair. I will have to read this up because I didn't...
Oh, yes.
The Wim Krauwel chair of history, theory, sociology of graphic design and visual culture.
Yes, you did it.
Yeah, so, and that's from the University of Amsterdam. And the chair focuses on the study of graphic design and visual culture in the Netherlands, in a broader historical and sociological context. And Professor Alice Twemlow got appointed for this special professorship in 2021. And so she's responsible for initiating, conducting, and supervising research and teachings in this field. And the heritage collections of both the Stedelijk Museum and the Allard Pierson will be important subjects of this research. So, and for some of you who are already, please come in. It's great that you're here. Find your seats. If it says reserved, just go sit on it. It doesn't matter. Just do it. So,
it's for you. Yeah.
yeah. So Alice Twemlow is a design historian and an educator and a writer. And for 17 years, She lived in New York City, where she worked as a program director at AIGA, and a freelance conference organizer, journalist, before being invited to launch and direct a new MA in design research, writing and criticism at the School of Visual Arts. In 2015, she and her family, and that is, I know that, I saw David somewhere.
Yeah, David's over there.
David is there. And they moved to the Netherlands, and that's really great, because now you got appointed, special appointment, Wim Kruil Chair, and also you are the design lecturer at KBK, the Royal Academy of Art in The Hague. And this afternoon, she lectured her inaugural speech entitled Disquieting Histories, Notes on Silence in the Graphic Design Archive. Yeah, and well, I have to find a clicker because then we go to the next slides.
Yep.
Yeah, that's you.
Oh, it's me. Oh my gosh, look at this. It's like, oh, my life before me. Thank you, Rosa. And I'll say that. Well, yeah, thanks again to the Wim Kruil Institute, to the University of Amsterdam, and everyone involved in creating and envisioning and sort of supporting this chair, because, as Roosje said, one of the amazing things that the Wim Kruil Institute does is to try and make this link, this sort of conduit between graphic design as heritage, as, you know, stuff in boxes in archives, which we love, but, you know, still sometimes can be a little dusty, to create a connection between that and live contemporary practice that's going on today, and to education and the way things are being shaped in the future. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, I think my chair, my professorship is kind of located. And Roosje wants me to summarize my entire 45-minute lecture that I just gave. So I'm going to give you... Not everyone was there.
Who wasn't there?
Yeah, that was a big mistake
on
their part. But anyway, I will forgive them. And and do a very, very brief recap. But basically, what I wanted to do with the lecture was to acknowledge that this is actually a big deal. Not for me, but for graphic design, to be in the university. And not to kind of, because we need it to be more scholarly or things like this, but rather because of the channels that it opens up, I think, between the sites of practice and the sites of research. And I was basically saying, you know, actually there are these desire lines that are already there, and people are tracking back and forth between, you know, the academies of applied arts and universities. But what if we actually, you know, identify that and turn that up a notch, you know? Like, and again, not just looking at how graphic design is, could be another subject alongside of art history and media studies and Dutch literature, etc. But what if it was actually, could be considered to be a liberal art alongside the other liberal arts in the Faculty of Humanities, and we could start to conduct research and study through the lens of graphic design. So I think that was my part one, yeah, wasn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, okay, that was the gist of it anyway.
Yeah, maybe I can click for you then. Because there was an important gist in slide, the next slide, I think, if it's working.
So yeah, this was me. There we go.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, yeah, it's working out good. Yeah, so I was sort of explaining that I am really trying to build something of what I think I called it a conceptual agora, which I'm quite pleased with actually myself. Anyway, but a kind of meeting space for PhD students, for postdocs, for students, for colleagues, for visiting international researchers who find that for them graphic design is a focus and a point of departure, right? So I want to create a kind of space where they can come together. And through all of that, I have my own research project, or I'm developing it, and that's And that's this kind of based around and this is going to come up quite a bit tonight, I think, in our discussion, this toggling back and forth between this notion of the archive, right, the graphic design archive, that huge, distributed, connected, networked, entity that we can't even grasp because it's continually reconstituting itself. And specific archives, really a set of 26 archives that NAGO assembled and are available for consultation in different institutions in Amsterdam. So I'm developing research that kind of tries to understand just the kind of materiality of it, how it came to be, and I'm asking lots of tricky questions about why, it is that when you look at these archives, as fabulous as they are, out of those 26, only 2 of them concern women. Just as an example of, this is not a huge surprise to anyone, I don't think, but that a lot of the biases that we see in the graphic design industry and the emissions and the occlusions also find their way into the archive. And I'm curious about, well, this kind of interfacing that happens between the archive and practice, and my role as a design historian in the middle of that. Am I just an enabler? Or are there some things that can be done using some of these theoretical references, and all of the amazing work going on right now in decolonising archives? Are there some of that we could take and to develop some kind of critical interventions to disquiet the archive a little? And so that's what I was trying to sort of give a sense of and give shape in this lecture. Yeah. And then the last part, maybe we need one more slide to go along.
This one?
Do we need to press again?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, part 3.
Yeah, part 3.
And the part 3 of my lecture is how we get connected to what we're doing here. Yeah. And in the 3rd section, I started to talk about some of the tactics and tools and strategies that are being deployed already all over the world by many people, including graphic designers, to try and fix some of these problems with the archive, to fill the gaps, to rewrite the narratives, to reimagine the contents, to repatriate where necessary. There are many different kinds of activist and theoretical kind of engagements happening. So I kind of thought about them in some different groups, and one of them I called counter-archiving. So this is this idea that when you represent a community of interest, and I mentioned, I think, the lesbian herstory archives in Brooklyn, for example, and you don't see your community or interest represented in the archive, well, you have to go out and proactively gather it and make it and get it in there into the public record.
And is it like a physical thing that you do? Like
oh, very.
You bring the T-shirt to the institute, or how does that work?
Well, I think that's a good point because, I think part of it, there's a part of archiving that I think we still really value the physical aspect of it, and we want that. We do want the T-shirt, the one that was sweated in at that protest, right? So, yes, I do think that. But then if you have something like this, which is the People's Graphic Design Archive, which is set up by graphic designers and educators in Los Angeles, what they want to do is complicate and diversify and expand the graphic design archive by gathering as much stuff as possible. And they're doing that mostly digitally.
Yeah. I
So
see
people
also
are
the button Add to Archive.
yeah.
So you could upload your own flyer that you made, or
You
how does
upload
it
the
work?
flyer, but also the print specs, the rude email that the printer sent, the whole kind
thing.
of story around
Amazing.
the production is what they want. So that kind of gathering work is going on digitally. Okay, so yeah, the counter-archiving I spoke about, and then another sort of category, I suppose, is what I call refiltering the metadata. And that's where you might sort of come into an existing archive or archival situation or infrastructure and using graphic design sensibility and mode of analysis, think about how to retool it so that it works better for contemporary concerns. So there's something like the feminist, what was that one called again? The Designers and Hackers one, the feminist search tool. Why are the authors of the books I read so white, so male, so Eurocentric? It allows people specifically to search the records of the Utrecht University Library and sort of using new kind of metrics to reveal, or new search terms to reveal new content, but anyone can use it in different contexts as well. And then the last category I mentioned was just a little bit about an imaginative space, you know, this, and I talked a little bit about mapping and that maybe it's quite nice to think about ways you could resituate an archive back in the fabric of the city, the urban context from which its graphic design was drawn in the first place.
Yeah.
And looking at some examples of mapping and imaginative kind of, I borrowed Sergio Hartman's term of critical fabulation to think about how we might push at the edges of what constitutes an archive sort of invite in the stories we would like to find there.
Great. Well, and I think also this, of course, there's a lot of action happening in this field, which is great. And tonight we are going to share some of these fantastic stories with you, and from some very special people as well. So maybe this is the moment where we can invite Kinda Ganon and Sally Alasfen on stage. That's her. Yeah. So come on stage. Sally and Kinda are from the Syrian Design Archive.
Yes.
Please have a seat. You can give an applause. Yeah.
Could I just say a word about it though, because it's such a bit, I mean, to me it's such an honor that you guys are here.
Thank you.
It's so special. Here's how it sort of went down. So I'm surfing around on the internet as I do, and just, you know, cool archives, whatever. No, but I found the Syrian Design Archive, and I was just blown away because it's just such a. Other people who've encountered it will know that it's. Well, first of all, it's just gorgeous and vibrant, and an incredible collection and a very detailed and specific collections of stamps and movie title graphics and the way it's sorted. It's great. When I was thinking about this notion of counter-archiving, right, this is something that I thought maybe this is what you were doing here, seeing a lack, seeing a gap, seeing hey, why isn't the kind of stuff we see on the streets around us represented in an archive, and how do we fix that, okay? And I also thought it was very, very interesting that there's a Syrian Design Archive, but your concept of Syria is quite expanded. Sally, you actually live in Damascus.
Yeah, I do.
So you're absolutely true Syrian, and we should also share that this is actually Sally's very first, not only visit to the Netherlands, but first instance of traveling out of Syria. So it's super amazing that she could join us tonight. And Kinder is based in Belgium. And Hala is where?
In Malaysia.
Currently in Malaysia.
Yeah, in Malaysia. So I love this idea that actually you take Syria with you to these different locations and sort of use this digital platform to coalesce the spirit.
Exactly.
I think, right?
Yeah,
Anyway.
definitely.
That's why I'm excited, anyway. But I think we should hand over to you so you can tell us more about how it came to be, why you do it. So, please, tell us.
Thank you so much. But thank you, first of all, to giving us this platform to talk about and introducing the Syrian Design Archive. We're really honored.
Oh, wow. You're very welcome.
I have a very practical thing. The clicker.
Yeah, we would love
it doesn't work. So we tested it. It worked before, but now it doesn't work. And I just had an intel from Anna. Hey, Anna. And Anna will click for you. So please say next slide, and then Anna will click for you. Syrian Design Archive, everyone.
Okay. It all started when I wanted to study more about the Arabic identity in graphic design. But the task was a bit too big, so I decided to narrow it down into something I can handle it and something it felt more personal, more like home. So I decided to study the Syrian design identity in graphic, and it felt so it was a side of Syria that was never spoke about, so that's why I felt that I have to do it. And growing up in, so growing up in an artistic family, it gave me access to a lot of archives of designers and a contact from family, friends. I'm really sorry, I'm a bit stressed. It's the first time you're giving.
Just take your time and just.
Yeah.
And you can tell them when to forward the slides.
So I was able to gather a lot of materials from different Syrian designers, and seeing this amount of data and material that I have made me feel responsibility to give an access to people who don't have this privilege and make it available for public. So here, here I decided to contact my friends Sally and Hala and ask him for help to create this archive. So maybe next. And can we press 3 times so it works? So after many meetings, we ended up formatting the archive the way that you can see it today. And knowing the power of the social media, we decided to take it as a start for us. So we started on Instagram, Facebook, creating different accounts to make it easier for people to reach and understand what we're working on. Yeah, maybe you can go next. So we started with creating four accounts, and first section of the Syrian Design Archive is the Syrian type, where next and next. The Syrian type archive is the section where we are focusing on signage design in the Syrian streets. We are photographing and documenting different type of signages, mostly vintage signages, from painted shop front signages to curve on stone also signages, dimensional letters. We are also trying to find who did it, because a lot of all signages were created by famous calligraphers. And also we are trying to know the year when they were designed or created, but sometimes we are facing a difficulty to know. What else? And And when we start posting, yeah, we can go. When we start posting those signages, a lot of people start reaching out to us, and it's brought to them a lot of memories from home and nostalgia. But unfortunately, a lot of those signages either were replaced with a new one or damaged. So yeah, this is the next. And then we have the Syrian print archive. Next. This archive, we're focusing on many types of print matter, printed matters produced in Syria by Syrian publishing houses, by Syrian designers inside or outside of Syria, such as we're collecting here, such like posters, book covers, flyers, business card, and no, let's go. Before, can we go back? Yeah. So, for example, here we the exciting part of this archive is the chance that we are stumbling upon many hidden gems of Syrian design. So, for example, like you see here, we found the first Syrian women magazine that was created back into 1962. So we were amazed by the design, by the topic that are inside of the magazine. Yeah, we can go next. And like you see here, we have a ticket from the airplanes, magazine, the music covers, lottery cards. So it's a big, it's a very big, very big collection. And we don't only archive the covers or we don't only archive the covers of the book or the magazine. We also try to archive the inside of the magazine. Like you see here, the head titles of the magazine or the book titles. So, and also the lettering and the Arabic, the Arabic, typography. Yeah, I'm gonna hand it to Sally. Maybe she can handle it better. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. Okay, so the Syrian Stamps Archive.
Wait a sec. Can we have a mic?
Yep. Is it on? Yeah. So the Syrian Stamps Archive is our next section. It's not working.
No. Sorry,
no, it's not working.
I think maybe I can give her my place.
Are they all supposed to be on, or we just use these one? Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Is this something we should do?
This one of Sally's not working, it seems.
Try again.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's working now. So the Syrian Stamps Archive is one of our biggest collections, both physically and digitally. In digital form. And almost every stamp in the archive of the stamps is from Kinder's private collection. Yeah.
You're a stamp collector.
Yeah, she is. So what we do, we collect every stamp produced in Syria, and we categorize them into sections by year of production, graphic designer, or even the occasion of the stamp. Syrian stamps highlight many different topics, and one of them is, can we go to the next one? One of them is focusing on Syrian heritage, like historical sites in Syria and different clothing, traditional clothing from different regions in Syria. We also have rare collections made by famous Syrian artists, like the one over there. It's the folk stories. It goes back to the 1970s. It's designed by I forgot the name. Muhammad Harb al-Tinawi. He's known as Abu Subhi al-Tinawi. And this one is the children's stories. It goes back to the 1976. It's done by Nadir Nab'a. We can go to the next one. The Syrian Media Archive. This archive specializes in archiving graphic design forms. Can we go to the next one? Yeah, graphic design forms and Arabic lettering and typography used in on-screen commercials. Can we go to the next one? And the next one. Here we can see series titles and movies titles, how they were designed, the typography of them. The next one. This is also from some Syrian series and theater also. Can we go to the next one, please? Okay, so the Syrian logo archive. In this archive, we focus on collecting and, can we go to the next one? Okay. Collecting and redrawing all the logos and trademarks in Syria and featuring the Syrian graphic designers behind them. So, next one. This journey we started 2 years ago has been an amazing one, actually. We are learning so much and we are continue to learn in the future. We were able in the past 2 years to connect with many people as we hoped for. People started reaching out to us, sharing their archives, sharing their photographs and their finds. I think this was the biggest reward of creating this archive, seeing the involvement of the people, the involvement of the Syrian society, and shedding some light on this, on the graphic design scene in Syria, which has, like Kinda said before, it wasn't spoken about before. So that was really special. Can we go to the next one? We also want to grow, so we were part of many exhibitions in Europe, in Berlin and Belgium, I think, yeah. And in order to grow and reach more people, we are collaborating with other archives.
It's working.
Yeah, thank you.
Is it working now?
It's working. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Bibliotheca archive of the archives. It's by the Looming Council. Lastly, I would like to say that our mission does not end here. Our next step is to launch a website for the archive with all its sections. And for anyone interested in graphic design, either a student, a researcher, or just for inspiration, to go there and find all these materials we collected and start effectively archiving as we progress more and gather more materials, both digitally and physically. Yeah, that's very important for us. Adding more sections in the future is also one of our goals. For example, we are already working on the Syrian banknotes archive, so that will come soon as well. We also want to highlight new graphic designers' names, share their stories and their work, create profiles for each Syrian designer. For the archive is not only about the designs, it's also about the people behind those designs, their names and their faces. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that and for doing it, the work. I mean, you know, I'm not sure when and how you find the time to do all this, nor the storage space. I'm worried. I'm very worried.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Now, but Kinda, I want to just, can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, sure. Well, we actually planned the Q&A after the next speaker, but it's okay.
Sorry.
You know,
sorry.
we go with the flow.
Just jumping
Clickers,
right
no
in.
clickers, all good.
Well, the thing I just wanted to know about right away was just, because you mentioned you started this 2 years ago, and it's seems to be driven by a very sort of personal passion and interest. But I can imagine there's also a need in Syria nationally, right, to sort of document and capture what is left. And I imagine a lot of things were damaged in the Civil War. So could you just explain how your sort of individual interest and passion fits in with a larger need, perhaps national need, to document?
I don't know.
Sorry, that's a big question.
Yeah, it's big, but yeah, like we're trying our best because, like I mentioned before, like we feel there's a need, so we're trying our best. But I know it's like bigger than us, and we have a lot of obstacles, like you said. A lot of documents were damaged. A lot of documents, like we don't have access to it. So, yeah, I don't know if you want.
Sorry?
So the archive itself, like I said before, we wanted to give this to everyone, so it could be accessible to everyone. I don't know if I'm answering this question.
Well, no, I think if you're making it very accessible. I'm just wondering more like about what are the, because it seemed like there were certain aesthetic interests that Kinder had. But then there must also, as the more you get into it, maybe you feel a sort of duty to be like, oh, but then during the Civil War, this kind of material was destroyed, so we need to go and collect that.
Exactly, and also like we felt a lot of names, and we were like surprised because a lot of students, like in art scene, like they don't know any name of the Syrian designers. We only learn about like international, but like we don't know like the locals. So that's why we felt like we want to highlight somehow.
Yeah, well, you do that very well. And how do you do the research, may I ask? Can I ask that to you, Sally? Because how do you find out? Because it's not like there are books about this. So how do you find out who designed these things and in what circumstances? And how do you do the research?
So the part I'm mostly involved in is the Syrian type archive, where I go on the streets and I photograph signages, anything I find on the street. And mostly it's about asking. I ask most of the vintage signs, for example, are owned by are signed, or the shops, for example, are owned by generations of the same family. So sometimes you can get the information from them, and sometimes they are signed. So the signature is. Could be a lead to the person who did the signage.
So it's also like a task to find out who did created, because like a lot of names they are not known. So it's also like another task to work on.
Yes. And do you find that also once you've posted things online or on social media, people are contributing information?
Yeah, exactly.
In that way.
Yeah, also.
Yeah, that's one of the great things, isn't it, about social media archiving? Is it's the crowdsourcing.
Yeah, that was also a bit my question. Is it still also a physical archive? Is it something that you keep boxes with the stuff? Is there going to be an exhibition?
We're hoping. Like we are trying to gather materials. Like we said, like most of the materials are now digital, but it's like the plan for us is to have it like also physical, to have like a real exhibition.
Yeah.
Someday.
I also wanted to open up maybe the floor a little bit to the audience. I mean, I have tons of questions. We can just fill all the time, but maybe you have a question for Sally or Kinder. Then please raise your hand. I'll come to you with a microphone, or Harriet will come to you with a microphone. But before, just raise your hand maybe. But I thought also it seems a little bit like a specific aesthetic. Are you like collecting a specific time period, or is there something like I can somehow see through your eyes?
Yeah. We started like going back to the beginning. Somehow we can say the beginning of the design, the graphic design in Syria. So it's like you can go back to 1960, and we want to continue. But like now it's the mission to start at that period. But we will try to archive and cover all the...
Yeah, so that's what you kind of feel, the funky times of the 60s. Looking into the audience, funky questions. Yes, I see somebody in the back. Harriet, go for it. Okay, there she goes. It takes a while.
Hello. I was wondering, in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, were there a lot of female designers in Syria?
We could only find one name, but we couldn't find any of her artworks. Yeah. So also, like, it's one of the things that I want to work on, to highlight like more female names and designers. But it's a bit tricky till now. Like, we couldn't find a lot of names.
Yeah, I see a question here. Harriet.
Oh, okay. Hi. Thank you for this very meticulous work. Yeah, I was wondering, some months ago I was speaking to someone doing something similar to you, an Italian person that has been spending 20 years of his life creating an archive in his home of erotic, queer printed matter. And so this work, what that means, is basically someone really giving his entire life, or 20 years of his life, to building this archive at home, and trying to make that public, but constantly, you know, like having kind of government struggles, or not being allowed to make it public. How has that been for you? Like, how do you go about, I don't know, in 2 years going from zero to something like this? And do you find support elsewhere? Like, also quite a material question in a sense. Where do you get the hours from and the commitment?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
about the street and the...
Okay. So we started from a really small circle, our family, our friends, and we went bigger and bigger and bigger to collect this. But we also faced some difficulties, like some archives are not accessible to us. And also when photographing down the streets of Syria, it's a tricky mission to do, especially with the situation in Syria. It's not allowed to photograph everywhere, so that's also part of the problem. But we try to reach out to as many people as we can to get as many materials as we can, and we are still collecting and finding things.
It seems already like a lot that you've done in only 2 years' time. I mean,
yeah, we went from a small circle, and then we connected someone connected us to someone else, and that's how it got bigger and bigger. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it grows and it grows. Hey, I think we have time for one more final question, either coming from the audience. I see Gert Dunbar. Yay, there he goes. Yeah, Gert, we were instructed to hold the microphone. Not so that not you hold the microphone, but we hold the microphone.
I must give you an absolute compliment. First, I must apologize for the extremely Eurocentric way of we look at graphic design. So I apologize for this. Oh. Secondly, I know in your society, you have a very modern society. And when I look at your very European-looking graphic design, can you very briefly tell us something about the design education at art schools, graphic design education in this place?
Good question.
Good question. The thing is, like most of us, we come from architecture background, so I'm not like really, I can tell. So yeah, I don't know.
Don't you have any friends who are studying graphic design or any?
But Kinda, I saw a T-shirt that you designed, so it's not completely true.
Yeah, I shifted into graphic design, but I didn't have this experience in the university. But yeah, so it's a bit hard to tell, to be honest.
Well, this could be the next archive, right? Syrian design education.
Yeah, it could be.
You have the suggestion now.
Yeah, it could be a nice idea to add to our archive.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. We have an evening packed, so I would like to thank you, and then
thank you so much.
This is when I start to introduce the next section, which is Graphisch Nusantara. And for those of you who don't know, I've written down some things. It's a platform dedicated to archiving vintage Indonesian labels and stickers. They're so yummy. Really presenting the, yeah, it's...
Historical technical term?
Definitely not, but I'm not a historian, so
right.
you know, it's not, I'm just a designer, so I just see it and I just get really, you know, wet in the mouth. Anyway, there's the great things, and it's initiated by a guy called Rahmat Perkasa, and he is a South Borneo-based graphic designer and illustrator, and he collected these vintage Indonesian ephemera since 2014. And then he kind of is a little bit of a magpie, you know, an extra. He's like collecting all of these things, and like, you know, especially the more kitschy, the better. Very candy colors. And he goes on scavenger hunts, apparently, to find this. And then he noticed that there were more people actually interested in what he was doing. So he kind of formed a team around him, and they started together and help him. And now Graphisch Nusantara has its own website and recently published their own zine. Let's have a look at the film they delivered, because they live in Jakarta, so that's why they're not physically here. Yeah.
Hi, we are Graphisch Nusantara. We are a collective platform dedicated to archiving vintage Indonesian labels and stickers. We are particularly fascinated by the references to many different cultures and styles that can be found within our collection. Indonesia is a big melting pot of many cultures, thus making Indonesian vintage design different from others. We believe that these materials can be seen as a window to the culture's past, a result from social dynamics, technology, behavior, and values that exist in society over a certain period. Despite the abundance of Indonesian vernacular graphics in our surroundings, they are often overlooked, forgotten, and even underestimated because of the assumptions of them being lowbrow and kitschy. Graphisch Nusantara caters as a space to give Indonesian vintage visuals chances to be appreciated. Our story begins in 2013. Rahmat Jaka started his collection of vintage Indonesian labels and stickers as a student in Yogyakarta. He retrieved his first collection from Pasar Kangen, an annual bazaar held in Yogyakarta Culture Park. Mesmerized by the eye-popping colors and kitschy aesthetics, Jaka then would go on scavenger hunts around thrift shops across Yogyakarta and Solo to amass his growing collection. With all the collection now laying around, Jaka decided to digitally archive and upload his collection on Instagram as Graphisch Nusantara. In 2020, Graphisch Nusantara won a partnership grant with Kaminsky, a multidisciplinary brand and design studio, making our future projects supported by Kaminsky. Graphisch Nusantara then brought new members coming from graphic design backgrounds and mutual fondness for Indonesian vintage design. Henry developed the standalone Graphisch Nusantara website to fruition and helps with communication and public affairs. Claudia helps the team with research and writing, and Said supervises our projects as a part of the partnership with Kaminsky. Our collection then migrated to the newly launched website, graphischnusantara.com, and made into our first zine. We collaborated with Indonesia-based graphic designer Evan Wijaya to put colorful and poppy aesthetics into the zine. Our collection are also made into merchandise, for instance, shirts and posters. We then held 2 exhibitions in 2022. The first one was an introduction showcase held in Futurama, Jakarta. In April, at the time we released our first zine. Our second exhibition is an intervention installation we did for the 12th Indonesia Contemporary Art and Design Exhibition, in which we demonstrate our methodology of deconstructing and reconstructing our archives to the audience. Our work has been featured in several articles and publications. These are some of them. We currently possess 300 plus artifacts in our collection and are set to broaden our collection in the near future. We understand the obsolescence of these materials, thus urging us to preserve them. Along the way, we will think of better ways to categorize our archive. We will also set out to evolve beyond our current heuristic activities by studying our artifacts, ranging from their semiotics to the historical and social context behind their production. We are writing down our learnings through the journal articles on Grafis Nusantara website, as well as Nusantara's Instagram account. Ultimately, we would like to make Grafis Nusantara a lively community with interdisciplinary collaborations. Whether we collaborate with local craft makers, writers, more designers, the sky is the limit.
And they're probably watching on the live stream, and I should say they really wanted to be here, and I tried to work it out, but quite tricky. So I asked them just if they could use the speaker feed to make this video to introduce themselves, and I think it gives a lovely glimpse, even just into this. What was it? Fizzly world. I'm learning lots of new terms. It's really beautiful. So Roosje, maybe we could just have a quick. Just get your reaction on it before we go to the next section. It's kind of fascinating, isn't it, the way Instagram is being used? I suppose that we think maybe, I mean, to what extent? What does it offer, I suppose, you know, as an archiving tool? Is it enough?
Oh, it's definitely not enough, and I think that's also what Grafis Nusantara really shows very well, honestly, because they make a zine to also take exactly the, you know, everything out of the Instagram back into a magazine. They make exhibitions, and also, of course, they're a little bit further away than the 2 years that the Syrian Design Archive is working, because they're nearly 10 years on a roll already. But you see also they really explore what are the possible. So yeah, of course, Instagram, social media is one way of entry, but it's luckily not the only one. And I think also that I share this with them as well, that the ephemera in real do never ever beat, you know, the Instagram, although they're very Instagrammable, as you could say, because of their colors, I suppose. And what it does, of course, is that you can reach a far larger audience, and I suppose also that's something that you two also figured out, you know, that it's really easy for people to access and get an overview of it all. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Do you go to find those archives online? Is it something that you do, or do you still go to the good old? Yeah.
Oh well, nothing beats the feel of the tactility of print and you know, and paper under the finger. So no, I love going in looking at graphic design in boxes in physical archives, but being able to access things digitally just gives you this kind of well, I think like Kurt was saying, just, you know, reminds you that we're this tiny little speck here. Yeah. We may seem like we have a lot of archives and material, but it's just a pinprick of the material out there, and so I toggle back and forth, I found. But I think we should probably move on to our next section.
We skipped 2 slides. So where's the clicker? There we go. Click, click, click. Oh, yeah. Oh, gee. Well, there we go. I wanted to invite Remco van Bladel to the stage, please. First of all, thank you. And then also maybe immediately also Alice Wong and Tabea Nixdorf, please. Can you also come to stage? Remco, here's the clicker that actually works.
They don't have to come right now, do they?
No, they don't. No, they don't.
No, you can
they don't.
still.
You can stay seated. That's also fine. See, it's very messy, but we like it messy. It's fine. Messy is good. So Remco is actually the only guy speaking here today. I don't know if you noticed, but it's something. So I hope you feel good about this.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Okay. Is it work? Yeah, it's working.
So you run a multidisciplinary design studio in Amsterdam, where you make book design, web platforms, curatorial projects, institutional identities, typefaces, the lot. What not everybody knows is that you are also the co-founder of a noise band art collective called Sonido, Greece.
Wow, that's back from the days.
Let that sink in for a bit, right?
You did your homework.
I've done some digging.
Yeah.
Good. Well, and in 2020, he co-founded Archival Consciousness together with artist Marianne Lenari, who's also here, gradually shifting the practice towards the development of the digital infrastructures and publishing tools. And you're going to explain us a little bit about all of that, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, let's give it a go. Maybe can we also kind of turn the lights a little bit down? I liked actually the kind of yes.
I know. I also said, but then apparently because of the live stream, it's very
but
difficult.
it's already better.
No, but that's fine now.
Let's take it away.
Oh, and now we see something else. We see Tabea's work.
Tabea's.
Are we going? No.
Oh no! Spoilers! Everyone, close their eyes.
How to solve this one?
I don't know how to solve this one. There we go.
Oh, up. Little bit up.
Back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. After the white one. After the white one. Yes.
Sorry, Tabea.
No. Okay.
For the spoiler alert.
No. Okay, that's good.
Come up to rest. Sorry.
Wow. Okay. Is this? Yes. Well, thank you, Alice and Roosje, the Wim Krauw Institute, for organizing this event and inviting me here tonight. For tonight's presentation, I will not go into my work as a graphic designer, but I will be talking about archival consciousness, my collaborative work with Marianne Lenari, an artist and PhD candidate at the University of Amsterdam. Marianne and I met back in 2013 while working together on the book No Solar, Brasilia, by Jonas Staal. She was an editor and me as the designer. Later we met again after she had worked on a year-long program inside the Stedelijk Museum Library called Moving Thinking, and she explained to me her methods of reading the library by hopping through links and relationships between books, and about Finnegan's Wake and James Joyce as a blueprint to read the library, one of the first hypertexts, and I got totally hooked. My practice spans from making books and co-founding publishing house Onomatopoe to building digital publishing platforms such as Www Review and Supercommunity for eFlux. Both of these websites in the end were archived as a book. So what do? So at Archival Consciousness, we see the book as a way to read and preserve the archive. We are developing procedures to translate physical collections into data and to get a sense of the scope of the collection and to make the collection visible as a network of relations for discovery, browsing, navigation, and exploration. And also as a way to republish the archive and to make the data open and available. And this is done in close collaboration with archivists, staff, and communities of archives. The Appel archive tells a multitude of stories about the Appel's living past and lively present through books, ephemera, video, audio, manuscripts, correspondence, witness reports, and art. And for the past 20 years, it has been nurtured, crafted, and maintained by Nel Donkers and the staff of the archive. You can find a lot of treasures, things that I have never held before in my hands, such as the Stedelijk Museum catalogs by Wim Krauw, or more contemporary items, like the published stories of Dutch art venues, like here, for instance, from Melly, the Appel itself, and W139, and this is by Bardi Haliti, Irma Boom, and Experimental Jet Set. But also several volumes of Dieter Roth's collected works, books by Walter Koenig, publishers, Spectre Books, publications by Jan van Toorn, but also Barbara Kruger, early Roma publications, book by Haller Broen, and some amazing books by Mavis and van Deursen, for instance. Also, for instance, this book here, Jennifer Tay and Richard Niesse, Metahaven, and actually the list goes on and on. Some of the main sub-collections include East Central Europe, the collection on feminism and gender in art, performance art, the unique artist books and rare documentation material, and it's a true joy for graphic design and book lovers, although seen from a very European and a white male perspective. That's my position here tonight. Entire collections like these are hidden behind the search box of databases in cultural institutes, making it hard to find and to get a sense of this collection. So, what is inside the Appel archive? And this was one of the main questions that Mariana had when she was invited to make a solo show about the archive. Catching Up in the Archive was not only an exhibition, but also a simulation of making the archive mobile. To do so, 18,000 publications were tagged with radio frequency identification tags by the archive staff and a group of 15 volunteers and friends. And this is what the Appel archive looks like. The archive of the Appel has 18,934 publications, 469 videos and films, 266 audio recordings, 222 posters, 191 artworks, and innumerable photographs. Since its inauguration in 1975, the Appel presented 1,132 events and exhibitions made in collaboration with 29,682 people, 945 collectives, and 4,134 institutes from 436 cities and 68 countries. All of which you're seeing here in files, right, going from A to Z. And around 1,300 stacks with around 10 to 20 books each were made, like one by one, to create this amazing installation. On the stage of the aula, Jacqueline Ellsberg curated the displays with the most valuable and fragile objects. The archivists were also part of the exhibition, and their workstations were moved from the archive to the stage, and they carried on their activities from there. The drawing of the floor represents our schema or data model, here used for circulation and navigation, allowing for the visitors to access materials inside the installation. The books were arranged in no particular order, and nothing was to be found, only just to be discovered. The schema and the data model can be seen both as a map of a book and a map of the entire archive, showing the network of metadata and its relations. The sense of scale is also clearly visible in the vertical axis of the model, going from the character to the word, to the sentence, to the paragraph, to the page, to the book, all the way up to the collection. The schema is a complex thing. It's difficult to do an ontology, but on the other hand, it's made of linked data, and that is something that anyone can do or is already doing when using apps without noticing. The participation of the community is what makes the digital archive polyvocal, and it is a form of labor, meaning that the results that stem from aggregating data also belongs to the community and to the commons, not to us, nor to the archive. We created this linked data card to mine data from the pages of the books in the form of triples by hand, and to show how data becomes machine readable. In this case, we are mining data such as a person, organization, place, event, object, time, or terms to map the collection. A triple, in its simple form, can be seen as a statement. It's the building block of a graph network consisting of a subject, predicate, and object. For example, Roosje Klap is a person. Amsterdam is a city, and so on. The public could fill these in and leave them as a bookmark at the page where it was found. Translating the collection as data is an ongoing effort that everyone can participate in: archivists, staff of the institution, researchers, and visitors. We developed the mobile archive units to read, capture, and publish. It's a trolley equipped with an RFID reader, lights, a smartphone, and a custom-built application that uses the phone to capture images. Once you place a book, the system automatically recognizes it and saves the images to the record of the book in the database. It works like a copy machine. People make copies of pages when they want to read later, but pages become directly available online for everyone and part of the metadata of objects in the database. Later, the pages will be available for annotation and the content will also be part of the network of relationships. So here you see how the trolley acts as a bridge between the physical and the digital. From the book to an image, through the data model, stored and cropped and visualized on the front end of Bibliograph, our explorative web application. Bibliograph is intended for cultural libraries and archives that want to open their collections and make them more accessible and discoverable for a wider audience. It works as an interaction layer on top of existing databases. The timeline shows the movements of the objects that enter the mobile archive unit. Everything that is placed and captured on the trolley inside the Apple archive shows up here in real time in chronological order. The map view reveals the more than 12,000 captured images on a series of grids, making it possible to zoom in and out and go through the pages and covers to navigate the sea of information. Every page is a possible entry to explore the entire archive. But today we're also happy to show some new features that we've been working on for the past months together with our fantastic developers Paul Jongsma and Joos Koppers. This is the Graph Explorer, and it enables you to enter and explore the images of each object and open up all the related persons, collective organizations, and slowly form a network. Bibliograph can be seen as a social network of books, the network of people, collectives, organizations, and objects that is constant in the making, enabling dynamic mapping, navigation, browsing, discovery, and reading the archive in a more intuitive way. Each archive has a story to tell, and the Apple is just the first. This upcoming year, we will add the archive of Casa do Povo in São Paulo, and we will look forward to enabling these features for more and more sister collections. So because with a growing focus in digitization, it is crucial to think about the resilience of these digital collections in the long run. Besides the environment, who pays the cost of the digital? And until when? Our concept is that the collection as data is every day better than the day before. And we are always ready to export the data and turn it into books again. Thank you.
It's just mesmerizing and incredible. Congratulations to you both. It's super impressive. Roosje, please can we ask a couple of questions now?
Well,
I know.
We didn't have a lot of time to discuss the script, but you're going to anything that you said before.
I know.
You know that, right?
I know.
I mean, it's fine, but
I know. It's chaos.
Because we actually wanted to have a bit of a group talk. But
I know.
You know what? One question.
One question. Okay.
You know? One question.
It's a clarification question.
Yeah, clarification
okay.
question.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
See if I can do it. I'm going to try and put two in one. I'm just curious, when you said that about that it sits on top of existing databases.
Yes.
How? And is there friction there? Yeah, I'm just wondering how that works. And then also, I'm just going to sneak another one.
Two questions. There we go.
So it sits on top of existing databases. And will the one that you've done working with Apple, will that be able to link and build with the one you're doing in Sao Paulo?
That's a good one.
Yeah, good questions. Well, yes, our idea is that basically what we would like to do is that we will not interfere with the databases of the institutes that we're working with. So we're actually reading their data, and we're establishing a form where we actually extract and kind of read the data from their databases in order not to be kind of like intervening on that level. Which not always works, but we try. And I think that it also, there's always friction, and every institute has its own methodology, so it is not an easy task to do this. And your second question is, yes. Yes, they will be linked. So the more archives and the more collections and libraries that we will add to this database will be linked to each other. Also saying that because how we're building this is it is built to scale. And so we have this ambition to hopefully not only create space for beautiful archives like the Appel, and there's a couple of amazing archives that would never have the ability to publish their material in such a way. So it would also be a refuge, a kind of something that houses spaces for very special archives that need to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to keep it to that for now, Remco, but stay seated. And then Alice Wong, please come to the stage.
Ah, you're next.
So Alice Wong is a story designer and a specialist tutor at the MA Information Design department at the Design Academy in Eindhoven. And she focuses on translating complex informations and into comprehensive, shareable storytelling. The research is rooted in understanding how our perception of reality is shaped, prompting the question, who told you so?
Wow. You compressed my speech into one.
But no, I'm sure that you are going to add a lot because, well, I would like to give you the floor, Alice.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks, Alice, and thanks, Roosje. I'm very happy to meet you all here. I'm Alice Wong. I define myself as a story designer. It's pretty strange, right? Who is that? What is that? And well, I draw a circle. I said I'm a story designer. I put myself in it and start like, okay, then what actually I'm doing. Cool. Well, I am here to share my website, and I always not only just a story designer, I'm also a digital pirate. I edit films and not allowed to play many places, and sometimes in the festivals, in film festivals, but then we sign a contract like, if we get sued, you get sued. But joking, it's not really like this. So I did my project, Reconstructing Reality, and it's my graduation project. And if every time I have to talk about what I am doing as a story designer, I always begin with this story. So maybe it's a bit painful for you to hear that, but for me, I've been processing this. So it's a heavy story coming on.
It's a trigger warning.
It's a really trigger one. Well, when I was long story short, short story long, it's because of my father. I lost him when I was 3 years old, and everything was kept in a jar, like no one tells me what happened. So when I was a child, I was told that he fell asleep. So as a child, you just wake your father, wait until he wakes up, and one day he never waked up. So I realized that he died, but my whole family kept it really cryptic, what actually happened. So gradually someone told me he got a cancer, liver cancer, lung cancer, did he smoke? And actually I didn't have any clue. And so my mother told me like, oh yeah, he died in a car accident. So I believe that he drove too fast and crashed one day in the morning. And it turns out like it's completely nothing adds up. And at the time that I actually studied graphic design in a bachelor. and then I thought, well, I want to do something more beyond graphic design. I want to go deeper into the content. And then I come to the Design Academy. Well, I study information design. And then, well, I was thinking, wow, okay, roll my sleeve. Actually, I was born in Amsterdam, but I don't have the accent. I don't have the Dutch language. I lost it. And then I was thinking, okay, let me find out what actually happened, where the car accident happened, how it happened, and why it happened. I couldn't find anything. Nothing adds up. And so it turns out like he was actually murdered in Amsterdam. And I was like really shocked. Everything I believe in is suddenly not true. And this is insane. He didn't even have actually a driving license. I imagine him driving too fast and deaf. Like, it's insane. So I have a 1 minute excerpt, and this is the password. It will just show once, so take a picture and make a tattoo. And feel free to share it around. 1, 2, 3, next. So I just press next and then we'll play, right? Okay, can you dim the light a little bit? Thank you. How could someone buy a crashed car and he could even drive away in it after a fatal crash?
a statement which was de-verified, shown to be untrue, might be meaningful.
Hold on. What if my father committed suicide? What if he's still alive?
But untrue.
Maybe he's now walking somewhere.
And it comes true, you verify.
Or he had another woman and left my mother. He committed crime and put in jail. What if he was murdered?
If it doesn't come true, you haven't verified it. You've de-verified
Chased by a car till he crashed?
But a statement
kidnapped,
that you can't
then
think
murdered?
any way of verifying it is in this theory meaningless. What evidence, if someone could produce it, would you regard as disproving your idea?
Eventually, my mother told me that my father was assassinated.
September 30th, 1992, Amsterdam. On the fire escape of his apartment was shot dead a 36-year-old Chinese.
So it is crazy. I cut my doubts into 1 minute, but in the whole film it's 11 minutes, so feel free to watch it. And so I wonder, like, oh crazy, it's a bracket of a placeholder. What I'm believing in is completely not there. But here, honestly, how many of us, if I imagine, and I invite all of you to think together like a firing gun, I guess not a lot of us really witness with our own pair of eyes, right? It's just a second-hand imagery from somewhere, if you're lucky enough. And I'm really curious, like, how these come together. And then where this ingredient comes from is all secondhand. It's just movies that I watch, news and photos, and everything is what other people tell me. Then I realized the power of storytelling, because it really is being interested in how in verbally and visually and in all the dimension, how it's translated to me, it shapes my perception of a reality. As an information designer, and I feel like it's not enough, because information people will feel like dry graphics and But I think, okay, how I see is like data, everything is data. If we observe it, measure it, is data. Information is data put together, associate, then data. It becomes a piece of information. But then I want to make it a story, because story also evokes emotions, and I want to be the one who work on the constructions of the story. So I call myself as a story designer. So in this sense, I'm fascinated by it. How stories emerge in different forms. And I see also like this kind of tools is crazy, because it can create a sense of threat, maybe justice also, or simply the need to buy something. So graphic design is actually playing a very important role. And at the beginning, I was thinking, yeah, what I'm actually going to talk here, I'm not really practicing graphic design, I'm not doing turnings, I'm not really focusing on the subtitle and the fonts. And then I come back to like, actually after your lecture, it reminds me, ring a bell, like, oh yeah, I have never let go of this tool. It is always in me. So I hope it's clear why I'm calling myself as a story designer, because it's a wake-up call 7 years ago. That I look at things differently. And I always have this urge to ask the same question over and over again. So simply put, it's like how our reality is shaped by information and by the things around us. So simply put, it's like, who told you so? Why you believe in the things you believe in? It becomes like this. Not really skeptical. I still trust people, though. I remember you have some question for me, but I will leave it, because at the end I put a work I really want to show. So I'm going to speed up. So there are questions like, okay, this is called Double 11, and I was invited to do a show, and it's about Alibaba. It's a geo-design show, and Design Academy was organizing an exhibition in the museum, Van Abe Museum. And then they invite alumni, so I was one of the lucky ones. I was selected, and then with a limited budget, and I was thinking, okay, what can I do with it now? And then they're encouraging me to fly to China, interview, and get your story told. I was like, well, with the budget, I can't really fly to China, and let alone like to get a hotel. So then I have to think about creativity in that sense. Okay, what about understanding, because it's about the project itself is geodesign, but the theme is called Alibaba from here to your home. Then I think, okay, from how far I can understand Alibaba, who's Jack Ma, what is Double 11? Double 11 is like singles A, 1111 is like 4 single skies standing, whatever. And you can also watch it on my website. And so I start to think, okay, what if this time I challenge myself? I download everything I found from Jack Ma, mapping how he gives speech in Jerusalem, in South Africa, in America, and then see the patterns of it and edit everything together. So it's a question on like how consumerism and how he transformed this folks holiday to the biggest shopping holiday on earth. And then the next one is, yeah, marriage matters. And I actually have showed this project here before a few years ago. And I was like, well, I went to China. I worked with Studio Tonic and went to China for residency, UNESCO residency. And that time, I was always asked like, hey, Alice, are you married? I was like, well, none of your business. So strange how you greet people at the first thing. So, how old are you? Oh, I was 27. And then, are you married? Oh, why? And then it becomes like, because in China, there's a term, is if you're 25 or above and you're single, then you're a leftover. And in Japan, it's even worse. Then it's called like Christmas cake. Who wants to have a Christmas cake after 25th, right? So,
oh my God.
Jesus, yeah. So, and then I was really angry, and I come back with a good anger. I applied for the Stimulating Funds, the Talent Development Grant, and I got it. And I had my Naveen Kandosakhan as my design coach, and then we worked together and I was watching all the movies in China. Not really all, I have very limited capacity, actually. Well, I watch a lot of movies, and it's always depicting this 30-ish woman and always misery. If she ends up single, even rich and beautiful, and she's miserable. And then I found this I tried to make it a gamified film, and then it turns out like, this gamified film is not interesting because they always lose, so no one will play it anyway. So and then I think about, okay, let me narrow it down and make work on a project just focusing on one episode, a TV series, and it's called 大女当家, which is a older girls ought to get married, if I directly translate it. It was like the top on the CCTV. CCTV is the Chinese Vipero, let's say. And then it's the top of the ranking in 2010. I was like so amazed by that. And it depicts like, you can see it in this middle, is the lady. I'm exactly her age, 33 years old. And she's single and a teacher and working and have like her peers. And all the guys below this in the film that is like she dated. And there are different bachelors and different people, candidates also. And there are different background. It's very stereotypical. Someone is rich, someone is single parent, someone is really not educated, and different twists and turns. But it's never ending up well. So I was so interested. So from every episode is like 38 minutes, and there are 37 episodes, and I edit it to 5 minutes.
Well, but
yeah.
I just want to make sure we also get, because we only have a couple of minutes left, so yeah. I want to make sure we get to the
end.
The open archive.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I actually,
archive?
Yes, and then, so there's us and them. I focused on the question then. Then I was trying to understand how stereotype transform, because I was in Jerusalem Design Week, and then I designed like, okay, I'm very curious what separate people. I want to tell is, every project leads from a question that I'm interested in. And then next is the charge stream. It's about lithium, also understanding the oil crisis and what is lithium and why Tesla, how it happened and all these things, and lithium battery. And now it's on show. How would the world look like if it were solar powered in Het Nieuw Institute in the solar show? It's not 2020, it's 2022. Maybe time flies too fast, I put it there. So this is the open archive. Time flies, voices and breaths. And I would like to say in the middle person, and he should be here, but yeah, hi, Simpson. I was actually invited by Simpson and to apply for this open archive, open call. And we got it, I'm so happy. We work on the project together. It's about, let me look at my script. Well, we are thinking about how to, At the beginning, we were like, okay, let's do something I've never done before. I always edit found footage, YouTube videos, movies. Let's look into something that is not really like that. So we're thinking, what about sound? And the literacy of speaking and hearing, listening, are we improving over time? Because when we look into radio, let's say, I listen to the radio archive, you don't feel the time. It feels like it's another Prince died, it's another national flag being burned. And it don't read so much, but visually, we always easily register, what that person is wearing and how the atmosphere looks like, the pixels, how it looks, right? And we pick up so many information, but in the audio, you can't really pick it up. So in that sense, this is called the snelle berichten Chinese, Netherlands, sorry, like it is a quick message Dutch Chinese. And so it's a government-funded radio show to bridge the Cantonese-speaking communities, Chinese, to the local Dutch. So they believe that bridging them and then they will bond together is easier to integrate with the society. And it was from, it was last like 1990 to 2008, and it ends. And then we feel like, oh, it's a pity because there's also some policy making and then some political thing. And then actually one thing is Simpson is a good friend of the radio host himself, is Yu Fai. And he's really fascinated he's really fascinated how a person is depicted in archives. Archives means like we went to the Beeld en Geluid and then the sound and vision, and then we really see like, oh, they have different recordings, and then in Yu Fai's, he has his own tapes. So here we're really a dry screen, we just look at like this, so I have nothing to show you. And on the left is and then is a tape, and you can feel his handwriting. And I don't know if we have time to play a bit.
Oh, of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, play a little
yeah,
bit.
you sure?
Yeah.
And I can stop.
Nou, omdat het kabinet, huidige kabinet, een onderscheid maakt tussen de oudere migranten en de autochtone ouderen. Want oudere migranten worden nu verplicht gesteld om de
因為內閣將外僑老人同本地老人分開嚟對待，外僑老人被逼要上荷蘭文課程，如果唔係呢，就會受罰，而本地唔識字嘅老人就唔使啦。另外，外僑老人除咗被逼要上荷蘭文課程之外呢，亦都要自己支付課程嘅費用，大約要6至7千歐元左右。對收入低嘅人嚟講呢，係好難支付得起咁大筆嘅費用嘅。呢種咁不公平嘅待遇，我哋當然要反對啦。華人喺呢度好少參與，好少有社會行動嘅。咁但係嗰次係好罕有，我哋係有一個社會行動，係爭取保留呢個廣播嘅。失敗啦，好明顯嚇。但係就當然唔係淨係我哋啦，仲有摩洛哥啊、土耳其佢哋群體都有做一啲咁嘅爭取咯。我唔知道應該點樣講啊，即係我唔係幾識講呢啲嘢嘅。我諗希望大家我諗有冇學校戰爭都好，我覺得我哋都要做好我哋喺呢個社會上面要求我哋做嘅嘢，同埋我哋有啲乜嘢我哋想要爭取嘅話，我哋都要盡量我哋自己嘅能力去爭取。
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. Took some interesting turns to get there, but we got there, and it's just fascinating. I really see the connection actually between, you know, what you're talking about first with this traumatic experience, and you found this lack or silence in your personal family archive, right? There was this sort of hole of missing information, and I think that's what's driven you on in your other engagements with online archives. And, you know.
And then the police archive was like 90% censored.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Amazing. That was the first archive I went to, is the Amsterdam Police Archive. Yeah.
It's very moving. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you for now. We're going to go into some Q&A after the next speaker, and that's the last speaker of today. It's Tabea Nixdorf. Please come to the stage. Alice, you were going to introduce Tabea.
Oh, I can. Very briefly. Well, I was introduced to Tabea's work through Delaney, actually. I think Delaney Balkan from New Institute. And I was really interested in hearing about this project, Feminist Design Strategies in particular. And the way that you, I think that what Tabea does is super interesting is to kind of
it's a blend, I think, of graphic design sensibility, a historical kind of viewpoint, and a little bit of activism as well in there. And I like this mix very much, and that's what I'm just hoping you will tell us about in this last talk.
The clicker is on the right of you, and it works. So
great.
Yeah.
The microphone.
Microphone's on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you also from my side for the invitation. And yeah, it seems very fitting to present this project here in this context.
A little bit closer.
Yeah, just for the sound.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll be sharing about the research project and exhibition room feminist design strategies. Feminist design strategies is one of the rooms of the semi-permanent exhibition Designing the Social, still on view until 2024 actually at Het Nieuw Institute in Rotterdam. And around 2 years ago I was invited to develop a concept and design for the exhibition room, and together with Setari Noorani also conducted the research for this extensive field of study. And together we searched for connections to underexposed histories, or rather her stories, of fighting for representational space in the fields of architecture, urban planning, graphic design, and I also want to add literature and beyond, during the so-called second feminist wave in the Netherlands, which we roughly framed as between 1968 and 1989. And this endeavor brought us to many archival institutions, among them Het Nieuw Institute's own National Heritage Collection. In the institutional archival landscape, the Institute's collection is no exception, with its conspicuous underrepresentation of the work by women, queer people, people of color, and other minoritized or disenfranchised communities. But thanks to the efforts of the working group Collecting Otherwise, of which Setari Noorani is a founding member, and also Delani and Carolina, shout out to them in the back. Yeah. Thanks to this Collecting Otherwise working group, there's an active shift towards more equitable methods for acquiring, classifying, and propagating heritage in the architecture and design fields. Overall, for feminist design strategies, we needed to reorientate away from design or architecture archives towards queer, feminist, and community archives to find what we were looking for: intersectional feminist practices to redesign and reimagine the social. Rather than looking for women who designed, the researched material we present in the exhibition room centers on an array of actions or strategies that form common threads across the spectrum of second-wave feminist activism in the Netherlands and beyond. Besides being an exhibition room, feminist design strategies has also become a nourishing ground for further activities of working with these archival traces to a local feminist heritage we can build on. Through personal conversations, intergenerational roundtables, talks, a radio show, or partnering with community organizations, an object like a poster, a photograph, or a pamphlet became more like a prop or a gateway to sharing embodied narratives. Which leads to the question of where and how to start such a research. This is a map I drafted very early on. One of the main resources for material became the collection of Atria, Institute of Gender, Equality and Women's History here in Amsterdam. So based on posters, slogans and images, this map was for me a way of trying to understand and retrace the manifold alliances, but also divergent stances among women's groups. A movement isn't linear and doesn't form in isolation. With our project, we wanted to especially highlight the implicit intersectional approaches by previous generations, even if the word intersectional wasn't in use then. Feminist design strategies, as the name already suggests, focuses less on design disciplines than on strategies that are paramount to the countless networks and initiatives that had formed in the Netherlands during the 1970s and 80s. When trying to find Dutch women or feminist graphic designers as a way to fill the gender gap in graphic design history and correct the distorted image of Dutch design being only a domain of men like Wim Crowell, it became apparent to me that it's not the lack of posters or visual culture produced by women. Here, for example, you see some by Fenna Westerdiep, Lies Ross, Ufuk Kobas, and Henny van der Zande. The pink one with the slogan, "All women are technical," seems to be representative of an attitude with which printed matter were produced for and by the feminist movement. They mostly lack a reference or small printed credits to the designer. Only through our intergenerational exchanges have we learned by chance who the designer of this pink poster is, Vaya Reinbout. Vaya designed the poster, printed it herself in the feminist print shop Las Muchachas in Amsterdam, and later ran a feminist print shop and publishing house with friends called Atalanta in Utrecht. Their print shop was able to work in the premises of another feminist collective, the Frauenklussen-Kollektiv, for whom they in exchange printed posters, and the equipment for the print shop was financed by donations they collected for volunteer cooking and baking at the Women's Center. I'm telling this in such detail to make it clear that it would be too short-sighted to simply and retrospectively find out who the designers of those posters were, to add more names to our canon. Instead, it is important, or I think it is important to challenge our understanding of graphic design from a feminist perspective. These posters here all have in common that there's no reference to their designers. The same is often true for texts published by second-wave feminist initiatives. No author is named, if anything, the name of a collective. Designing and writing is an integral part of a collective practice and a work ethics of solidarity. Everyone contributed their knowledge with doing a part of the work to make an event or demonstration happen or create awareness for a social issue. This culture of skill sharing and sweat equity doesn't necessarily stand in line with someone's professional training, but is mostly a reflection of their desire to contribute and their self-taught knowledge. Each of these posters contain so much more information than an event announcement and a visual aesthetics. Through the names of the venues, the people involved, or the printing press, for example, the tight-knit and community-built infrastructures unfold. For feminist design strategies, we looked at feminist initiatives in the 70s and 80s that not only addressed and unraveled patriarchal structures, but that also acknowledged the interconnectedness with other forms of oppression. Just like today, feminists organized by using both their professional backgrounds as well as building their own independent infrastructures. So, even if the media and aesthetics change, the strategies are still worth learning from. You need banners, songs, and pamphlets to hold a protest against repressive abortion laws. You need to distribute the pamphlets and magazines you've printed and spread word-to-mouth information. You need to create awareness and visibility for those who are marginalized in your own communities. You need your own financial plans and resources to realize your ideas. You need to mediate, present, and advocate for your lived experience and political visions. You need to have bookstores and community spaces for all the alternative knowledges to spread. You need to share your academic knowledge, re-educate, give readings in and outside established institutions. And you need to build resilience and allow your body archive to learn, heal, and connect. So what I'd like to bring into this conversation tonight is something I've learned from studying these feminist efforts of previous generations in the Netherlands, is that a feminist graphic design archive is only a valuable resource if we can look at it, at every printed matter, as an entry point to understanding the infrastructures and collective efforts which allowed for the production of these prints in the first place. Some of the most powerful events of feminist reimagining and world-making in the Netherlands didn't have shiny posters or thick printed program booklets. Take, for example, the rise of Black feminist movement in the 1980s. Black migrant and refugee women organized to fight racism in Dutch society and within Dutch feminism and empower each other. Their conditions and means for organizing were even more precarious, and it also shows in the visuality and at times even the lack of archiving those activities. The several visits of Audre Lorde upon invitation by the Black feminist literary collective Sister Outsider based in Amsterdam didn't leave many visual traces in the archives. This is a reminder that it's not all graphic. To close with a quote from Gloria Wecker's book, White Innocence, in which she also looks back on the beginnings of her activities within this collective Sister Outsider. As Adrienne Rich states, revision, the act of looking back, or seeing with fresh eyes, of entering an old text from a new critical direction, is for women more than a chapter in cultural history. It is an act of survival. We need to know the writing of the past and know it differently than we have ever known it, not to pass on a tradition, but to break its hold over us." End quote. So, on that note, I wanted to again bring into our conversation the attention to the archives in a broader sense that are kept among us and which are not graphic necessarily, even if graphic material can be welcomed entry points in identifying the ongoing feminist struggle in both public and private venues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for all your presentations. Completely different also in dynamics, all three of you. Well, great. Alice, you thought to bring these three together in one block. Maybe you could say something about why did you think the three of them should be together?
I've changed my mind now.
You do this all the time.
No, I haven't actually. I just seen different sides of the practices and the approaches. I think can I just talk more generally? The fact is, I just think the question I brought to this whole event and what I'm curious to kind of find out, is there something particular that a graphic designer and a graphic design sensibility brings to the archive, right? This is just what I'm curious to find. And I talked about this idea of counter-archiving before, and we saw how precise and meticulous that counter-archiving was done, right? It's different from how other people do it. And then I was thinking that this group perhaps had these different strategies for providing access to the archive and entering it and sorting it and sifting it. And in Alice's case, imagining it and kind of twisting it in unfamiliar shapes. So that's, I mean, it's, you know, that was just my thinking. And I've seen lots of lovely connections between them all, and I hope you have as well.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe it's also a good bridge to maybe the question, the question that centers all of this, like what does the graphic designer actually have to add to this archive? Maybe, Remke, could you say something specifically on this? like for you as a designer, looking at all these things, not just from the perspective of, oh, this is a nice design cover, or, you know.
I think for me it's also about structuring information and having this abundance and trying to kind of look at a kind of a body of work from a kind of editorial lens to see, okay, so it includes this, but what does it exclude, or how do we organize this basically on a screen? It's like sometimes it can be very practical questions, sometimes it can be very kind of more insightful to talk about more the ethical perspective or some other perspectives of where does this content come from? What does it relate to? What are the sources? Is this original? Things like that. Yeah, there's a lot of little things that cross my mind in this case.
Yeah. And Tabea, you're also a graphic designer.
Sometimes.
Recovering. Yeah, and I mean, it's also difficult to surpass almost like all the beauty of all the things that you see. I'm not sure if you even, so for instance, Lies Ros of Wild Plakken is sitting there right in front of the audience. Hi Lies. And some of which of the work is made together with Rob Schreuders, also there. And it's, when you look at all of these works, it's also, this is an excerpt of their collage. It's also difficult to surpass the beauty of the design in a way. But you also mentioned, you wanted to set it aside and look at different ways of entering this. Is it for you difficult to do that?
I wouldn't say difficult. To me personally, these like graphic design items, for example, I found many of them at Atria. They have also, of course, they have a huge poster collection, but then also sometimes very unsorted boxes from like feminist printing presses or print workshops. And then you open them, and to me it's more interesting to go through them and get also all these links out of information, I guess, out of them to see, okay, like it's an announcement for an event, but then it took place at a feminist bookstore, and it was printed by a feminist printing collective. So all these, like to realize it's not just maybe an appealing aesthetics, but it's really this spirit behind it that
context,
that speaks to me. And besides that, I would say I'm also, that's why I included that slide with, you know, just typewritten announcements. I'm just as much drawn to these kinds of archival materials that are not printed in color, but they contain just as valuable information.
I'm holding a mic here, and that means that if you have questions, please raise your hand. Also, Harriet is here still, also with another mic in the back. Alice, maybe...
I have
so please raise your hand, and I'm going to go down.
So I can ask it in between. Okay, very good. Well, maybe I can ask one to Alice as well, because this experience you had, I just would like to hear a little bit more about the behind the scenes of it. So with the open source archive project, the open archive, open archive. So you got to be artists in residence, is that what they call them, or fellowships or whatever? And you basically walk into this massive archive, National Archive of Sound.
There's like 3 different archives available. There's a social history archive in Amsterdam. There's one is Het Nieuw Institute archive, and there's one is Beeld en Geluid in Hilversum. And so there are 3 archives. We feel free to dive into it. And
weren't you just completely overwhelmed?
Yeah, we are. So,
So how did you find that little collection of tapes? I mean, what you showed us was something incredibly distilled and very, very precise.
Well, when we write the proposal, we sort of have a kind of a a torch already turned on where to go already.
You kind of had some keywords in your mind.
And actually, Simo is my collaborator on this project, and he knows the radio host, and he knows that the radio exists, and he already have an idea what to do.
That's cheating. Come on.
Really? No, but then the radio...
That's the graphic designer's sensibility going into the archive, right?
No, but then the radio already exists, but then he knows the radio host himself, and then he has the tapes himself. So the tapes belongs to the radio host, which is exclusive to the archives. They don't have it in the public archive, but it's a private collection. Yeah. So we are just swimming between private and public constantly. And
I think that's a huge theme, isn't it, as well today? And did you interview?
Yeah, we did.
And that's when we had this really emotional.
So actually, the 3 screens I try to mimic in the Het Nieuw Institute experience, but it works okay. It's like from 3 different archives. So the left is the personal, private ones, and then the middle one is from the Beeld en Geluid. The right one is we interview. So it was popping in different ways. So in the setting itself, in the exhibition, is more clear.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, the live stream is now going to be shut off, so I'm just going to say wave goodbye to everybody at home. Bye, everyone. And now the real stuff gets to go on, you know. Yeah. So, we're free now. Thank you so much. I just wanted to mention that we have around 5 more minutes officially. We can sneak a little bit, maybe let's go a couple more minutes. But please raise your hand if you have a question. Looking at you now.